The theme of this month for us is really around how GravitySketch can be used as almost like your toolbox or virtual studio. And how do we use this as a flexible space, not just as a creation tool, but like as a tool to bring ideas in and out, have conversations, and fit it into various stages of the workflow. I often, when I go and speak to customers, have to level set with them like, hey, look, we're not going to replace any of your CAD tools, nor are we going to replace your Adobe suite. They're often like, well, where does this fit and how does it fit? And so I just wanted to, open it to you all, whoever feels like they have a approach to help others think about the software, the technology, and how it sits amongst all the other tools. Then also maybe like the most common tools that this integrates with as well, and how well that integrates.
Everyone has their different workflows. GravitySketch really complements that, right? It's a very versatile tool that, depending on the designer and the way they like to work, we'll see sometimes people like to jump in with a completely blank room and they just want to express their ideas really quickly, as if they were sketching on paper, but they're sketching the 3D space. Other designers might like to ground their work in more of a reference, so like a 3D scan or a 3D model, or even just importing a 2D sketch and use GravitySketch to really bring that 2D idea to life and understand, even for themselves, how does this idea actually work before I start showing other people. Other designers want to, explore 3D forms really quickly and then export whatever they get to in GravitySketch and take it into other 3D tools like Rhino or Blender to kind of finesse it or take it to the next level. And then you've got other users that will actually get into the real fine details in GravitySketch as well. So I think it's kind of got a place in the workflow for a whole spectrum of people in different stages in their workflow. And I personally would just recommend try as many of them as you can, because you never really know what works for you until you try it. Try not to get too much into a box. People think because GravitySketch is 3D, they associate that with lots of other 3D software like Blender or Rhino, which is very precise. And they want to just get into the details super early, and they forget all of that free expressive gestural stage in the design process. So yeah, I would encourage try going a bit earlier in your design workflow within GravitySketch than you have before, and keep loose, and then you can build in the detail from there.
In terms of automotive, we see Alias Sub D, Blender, we see Maya, we see being exported to VRED, exported to Twinmotion. There's a variety of tools, right? GravitySketch can be injected at any stage. It's a toolbox, like you said. You're able to put in other tools and export it, and it makes the handoff super easy when you want to take it downstream for visualization.
For an apparel designer, GravitySketch has become the maker's digital tool. The controllers are our digital extensions. From a apparel design point of view, we're draping fabric over a top of a mannequin, or we're taping design lines. We're doing this. We're not pushing around a mouse or memorizing keyboard shortcuts and everything. So like what Shay was saying, we're not replacing an illustrator. We are really helping bring the ideas that we have, that a designer has in their mind, in 3D, helping them keep it in 3D.
Been working with teams recently, kicking off their creative direction in GravitySketch, and GravitySketch has almost been this collaborative space for them to pull in insights, mood boards, JPEGs, PNGs, and also MP4 videos to kind of pull all of their different directions and their thinking into one space. But then they're actually using the GravitySketch environment to sort of build on and enhance this creative direction. So everyone might look at those 2D mood boards or images, and there might be a certain part of that image that clicks for different people in the room, right? What we're seeing now in these collaborative spaces is that people can now circle a certain area of an image, draw a line over to a model or a last, and start really quickly sketching out an idea that relates from this image, and everyone else in the same space can instantly understand what they're looking at, and then build on that. So it's kind of enabling deeper conversation and also just better understanding of each other's ideas. We're now seeing that the same value that people are getting from those initial creative kickoffs, that they're able to leverage when they go into tech packs and kind of factory communication as well. So having their 3D model that they can pull apart and scrutinize, but then be able to take a cross section, maybe do some detailed line drawings in Illustrator or something, and then bring that back into the space to kind of reinforce what they're talking about in 3D.
The benefits in the automotive industry, I would say, is the collaboration aspect of it. We're starting to see a large departure from the traditional process where, you know, there was a series of handoffs that are very like siloed and cut and dry. Now those lines are being blurred. So we're having clay modelers jump in to the headset and they're digitizing their clay, or they're working with their designers a lot closer, versus the traditional method of a designer maybe sketching on a 8.5 by 11, or providing Photoshop sketches to just hand off and have them execute, or tape lines and knife lines that were traditionally put on a clay model. Now we're seeing both of those parties putting on a headset, speaking about the design, problem solving in real time, so that the design is better for it. It makes for a very fruitful discussion, and it moves the timeline along a lot smoother, and you can get to a solution a lot quicker.
When we were building out that virtual studio and we were building models in there, we had a wall built up where we were bringing in and scanning in sketches, inspiration, as what Red was kind of talking about, building out the studio. The aha moment was actually, it was when we brought in the integrated web browser. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we can work in here, we can draw in here, and we can automatically go online inside of the tool and like bring in other inspirations and everything. So it was fluid. So that was an aha moment of just those tool sets, just like integrating design and keeping the headset on and bringing in references.
I was working with a designer at one of the big footwear accounts who was working on a new project that was based off of an existing style. Initially, we jumped into a session and they imported a 3D last and then some initial sketches. They sort of started off just sketching around the last, and it kind of made me think, hold on, if this is an update of an existing style, why don't we utilize that work that's already been done on that existing style? And we actually went and took a 3D scan of the model, the existing shoe, imported it into the room and lined it up with the existing last. And it was this instant like aha moment of, wow, I can import something that's already existing. I can utilize the existing shape, form, proportions, and I can really speed up my workflow because I know that I'm working to, you know, the previous toe spring or stack height, but I can still be creative in my process. But I know that I'm kind of sticking to real world parameters or kind of limitations, right? There was another aha moment on that same project where the designer then finished their concept, took all of the screenshots and exported the 3D file and sent it to the factory. And then normally footwear designers will receive 3D PDFs, which they can open a 3D file, spin it on their laptop screen, but they can't really do anything with it other than maybe take screenshots and sketch over it. So we actually re-imported the factory 3D back into the collaboration room. We had it like lined up with the original Gravity Sketch file, which in itself was really amazing to see how accurate they were and how close they were. But then the designer was really trying to work out, how do I communicate like the changes I want to make to the factory now? And we just started to pull apart the 3D that came from the factory. And again, it kind of just clicked of like, I can actually now pull this apart or turn off certain layers and communicate the internal workings and those really complex elements to design that can take a lot of time to communicate through 2D. So yeah, those were a few of the aha moments on that project.
Traditionally, when you're working on a project, you don't get to see a full size until much later on in the process, right? So now with Gravity Sketch, you're able to see that full size model from the very first week of your sketches. From the very first time you create a sketch in there, you're able to blow it up in full size and start analyzing it, reviewing it, and getting a feel for what the vehicle is going to be. A huge win recently at one of the Detroit-based automotive companies was they had a full-size AR pass-through data set that they were able to walk around, and it's always great to see people kind of putting their head into the digital model, seeing the interior, walking around it. That specific data set was next to the physical counterpart that was the updated version. So it saved them a lot of time, it saved them a lot of money, and they're able to iterate on that full size data set instead of investing in so much more time.